Okay, in my first clip that you guys saw, cylinder 2 here is puking gasoline, which leads us to believe that this specific fuel injector on cylinder 2 is stuck open. Yes, you can see all of these are disconnected. The motor wasn't actually cranking over because of too much fuel in the system. Now, if this happened to you when you were on the highway, I'm sorry, but more than likely you bent a valve and it's probably not going to run anymore. This specific situation happened after I changed out the fuel pump, so apparently I got some debris in the lines that must have gotten through and clogged this here fuel injector. So I've already pulled the top cover off. If you're not familiar with removing that, it's 2 T27 Torx, or I'm sorry, there's 3 of them that go along the top here that'll pop that cover off, and same with this cover here. To do the fuel injectors, we're going to need to remove this whole fuel rail. First things first, we are going to disconnect the fuel pressure sensor, and then we are going to disconnect each of these fuel injector connectors. I'm not sure if you can see me doing this, but you're going to push in on that metal piece and they'll pop right up. I did not remove the turbo hose. I did remove the 2 Torx, so I have a little more playroom. Removing this will make it a lot easier. This is plastic, so try not to really muck it up. All right, now that we have each of the fuel injector connectors disconnected, I also decided to go ahead and disconnect the ECT sensor connector. It's just easier to be able to push the whole wiring harness out of the way. Be gentle disconnecting these because these wiring harnesses are known for having problems. So from here, now, as I already said, this thing's cylinder 2 injector has been puking gasoline, so I don't need to relieve any kind of pressure off of the fuel system, but in the off chance that you're changing them out because you want to upgrade, whatever, you're going to relieve the fuel pressure right here in the Schrader valve. Use a rag, use some kind of a cup or something to collect your fuel because you really just don't want that all over the engine. From here, we're going to use we're going to take out an 8mm socket and use that to remove the 2 bolts that hold the fuel rail to the intake manifold, as well as this one T15 Torx. This is your fuel supply line right here. So when you go to remove this, ready? It's going to pull right up. Now that line is loosey-goosey, and when you go to remove this bolt here and this other bolt holding down the rail, this will slide right up and out. But be gentle because you don't want to break plastic lines. As I mentioned once before, you have to go really easy on this because fuel injectors are press fit into the rail. Ugh. All right, so now that we got the fuel rail out, you want to take a look at what you got going on as far as the injectors are concerned. As you can see here, I'm missing some of the plastic on some of these, which if I didn't have almost 300,000 miles on this motor, I probably would be a little concerned about that, but at this point in time, I'm really not. You're going to use a T25 Torx to take off these 3 bolts here. That'll pull this metal sleeve off, and then you'll be able to remove the actual fuel injectors from the fuel rail. Now that we have these 1, 2, 3 bolts out, we need to remove this sleeve. Now, if this was a newer engine, it would not look like this. You can actually take a look at your fuel injectors and kind of get an idea of what may or may not be going on in this engine. But again, 300,000 miles, I'm not doing that. With that being said, I'm going to use a flathead to gently pry this up, little by little from one side to the other. Sometimes they come off nice and easy, sometimes they don't. All right, now that the rail cover's off, your fuel line connector is going to pop off. Make sure you're making a mental note of which direction these are facing because it's going to make it easier for the installation for you. You want to make sure that your connectors are connecting and facing the same direction. You're going to make sure that this fuel line, again, facing the same direction, or else it's not going to go together and you're going to have to do it nice because you're going to do it 2-3 times. All right, now that I've got all my new fuel injectors out and ready to go, I already double checked and made sure the part numbers were the same. Always make sure that you have the right parts because if it is the wrong size, there's going to be some weird things happening. These are electronically controlled engines, so do what you will with that information. Now to put these in, I personally put just a little bit of oil on each of the gaskets just to make them go in a little bit smoother, seat a little easier, and then I don't have to worry about maybe breaking the gaskets installing them. Now, in going to put our lock back on, I want you to take note. See right here, each of these, I'll get a little closer, you can see that there's grooves in these. And these grooves are here specifically to sit with this fuel rail lock, so that way the injectors themselves don't get pushed out under pressure. So now that our fuel rail is where it belongs, you can see we're lined up on our bolt holes here, which is A+, A+. We're going to put the lock in here for our fuel line. We're going to put all the connectors back on and then prime the system and see if she'll start. So you're going to reconnect your fuel line, put all your connectors back on. You're going to prime the system here. I apologize for not having it on video, but here we are, and the engine's running again.